Hey, this is E.B. Moss from Media Village, and this is Insider Insights with a special on-site edition of the podcast today because I grabbed somebody very special who came to New York just for a quick turnaround, and I really wanted to talk to her. So we're literally sitting in a restaurant doing Catch as Catch Can with Min-Jae Orms. She is the head of marketing and CMO of Visible. As I understand it, Min-Jae, I think you're a disruptive marketer marketing a disruptive brand. Would that be fair?
That is one way to put it, and I hope that disruptive in a good way.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to tell you what we mean exactly by that. We're going to get some insights. I'm E.B. Moss for Media Village, which drives the business of media, marketing, and advertising forward through content by, for, and about thought leaders in ad tech and ad agencies, the audio space, and addressability, even those who are advancing diversity. So, let's get some insights. Min-Jae Orms, CMO of Visible. So, a little bit about your background. I know that your reputation speaks for itself, and that is about putting people at the center of everything you do.
Yes.
So that's really what I want to do.
Yep.
Before you really explain what Visible is, because we're going to have to concentrate on that. I know it's a whole new thing. I want to start with you. In a nutshell, you have 20 years in digital media and tech and entertainment, and before Visible, you led global partner marketing and media teams at YouTube.
That's right.
And I mean, you did everything there, partnership marketing and media activations, and I think you also led their first ever creator campaign globally. What was that?
Yeah, so back when YouTube was still finding its own identity, what is now widely known as YouTube Stars back then wasn't really a established concept. So one of the things that I got to help with while I was at YouTube was to figure out how to really harness the energy of the community and the fandom and the energy that's behind the incredible creators who are making their passion projects on YouTube and bring that to more mainstream audiences. So Bethany Mota to Michelle Phan and those who have become truly household names now, we've helped to put, I would say, put a little bit nudge, wind beneath their wings and help them put on the map so that everybody who should know about them became even bigger fans beyond the communities they had already built on YouTube.
Now, speaking of communities, that's something that you also were really charged with building.
Yes.
I should also mention, before we get into more of your early background, I should mention you have your Bachelor of Science in Foreign Services from Georgetown University, which sounds very interesting. Mm-hmm. Then you got a Master of Arts in Cinema Studies from NYU.
I did.
Okay, so that seems a little right brain, left brain.
For sure, yes. Yes.
What happened there?
Well, one, I had very supportive and progressive parents who supported me in all of my interests and journeys, so that was incredibly helpful. The switch, I would say, between those two degrees was this. When I started college, I had just gone through the experience of having moved from Korea to Canada, learning a whole new culture, whole new language, and sort of adapting to a whole new reality. And that experience really opened my eyes to how do you connect with people when you don't actually share languages and common things yet and still be able to connect and communicate. So one of the ways that I found that thread to college was, well, I really actually like learning new languages and cultures. How can I do some useful things with it? And so I decided to go study international politics. What I found during college years is that although I found the international aspect of my studies very interesting, I wasn't a policy wonk. So naturally, towards the last couple of years of college, I gravitated towards more of the true cultural aspect of international studies rather than the policy aspect, which is how I found my way to film.
And that kind of background, I mean, we'll fast forward a little bit, but that helped you net a lot of recognition in Adweek Media Campaign of the Year, People's Choice Webby Award, and from my cable past, which I
Yes.
appreciate, many Mark Awards for
Yes.
marketing excellence, which were the
Absolutely.
Cable Marketing Advertising Awards.
Yep.
So I love that. And you also really champion women.
Yes.
And I want to hear a little bit about that.
For sure. Well, during my years at YouTube, I was fortunate enough to really benefit from, one, having a strong network of peers who really lifted me up when I needed it, and two, programs and structures that existed within the company to help women have real conversations about what challenges they were facing at work, and therefore how they should think about their place at work and what opportunities they could carve out. So through that process, first I benefited from those things and kind of really found my place and voice and identity in terms of what is my own authentic leadership style, rather than defining my own leadership style by how the external pressures or definitions of what leaders looked and sounded and felt like. And so for me, the personal motivation behind wanting to really champion women is because of everything that I have benefited and have received, and the people who have really pulled me along their journey, and I want to also pull seats at the table for them.
Well, I'm just for that reason alone so glad I met you. Obviously, this is also a really important aspect for Media Village, and Jack Myers is a known feminist and the author of The Future of Men, about navigating in a world where women need to be more empowered, and how we build equality through all of that. So it's fantastic, and I think we're going to make sure that the section that we have on Media Village called Women Advancing features you as well.
That's great.
So, yeah. Now, what the heck is Visible?
Let's get to the main point. So Visible is a new kind of brand that we are nurturing around the phone service. We are a Verizon company, and we're trying to provide folks around how they live their lives these days, which is always on the go. People value their time and their money, and therefore what they pay for and the quality of the services they get. So our Visible phone service, the promise is this: we are $40 a month, a single line plan with unlimited messages, minutes, and data, plus mobile hotspot on the go, and no contract. And the unique thing about us is that we don't have physical storefronts.
Okay, I did read that.
Yep.
So you're not invisible, you're visible. Okay.
You got it.
Oh, so that's how basically you can afford to, just without the brick.
That's right.
And the click.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because when we really looked into the research and consumer behaviors these days, what we found was that, one, while retail is figuring out how to evolve to consumer behavior, there were large segment of people who didn't necessarily need to rely on physical storefronts and wanted to get their business done. Because if you think about it, looking at your phone, you can right now order a car service, you can order dinner, or you could even get a date tonight.
Or record a podcast in a restaurant.
Just like we're doing right now. You can do that all from the convenience of your smartphone, but until Visible existed, one thing that you couldn't do was simply download an app from the App Store, order the phone service, get the SIM card shipped to you next day, pop it in, and then you're good to go. So truly really enabling and fueling the life that you live and manage from your phone, also giving that opportunity to our members through the quote-unquote storefront that we have in our web and app experience.
Okay, so my phone is my storefront.
Yes, that's our home. You can come visit us anytime.
Okay. So I wanted to talk about how you're going to or are applying your experience in building communities.
Sure.
First of all, navigating communities as an immigrant, and then also building communities both at YouTube. And now, what's the secret sauce of your marketing plan? Just, tell us right here.
Well, I don't know if I have a secret sauce per se, but as you said, it's been really informed by my own personal experience and what I've learned over the years. So, first of all, having that experience as an immigrant, it really taught me to pay attention to, but also open up my empathy and aperture to be more understanding of what other people might be going through, because sometimes I was on the receiving end of being misunderstood. And so with that, when I think about Visible as a business and as a marketer, I think a lot about people who may be misunderstood or even overlooked. So therefore, with our simple one price, $40 a month and unlimited everything, how could we be there for people where these days smartphone and the data access is absolutely a must? And the community piece of it, as you mentioned, with YouTube and its vibrant global community that I helped to build from ground up, I think a lot of that in the instance of how and what kind of relationship we want to ultimately have with our Visible members, which is to say, yes, there is a transactional element to why they would come and sign up for a service and therefore how we would serve them. But I would ultimately want this experience to be one that is so good and convenient and feel good that I want people to come here because they want to. I want to be there for people in ways that are truly helpful and adding value to their lives, and not necessarily because this is the thing that you gotta have but you can't afford it, and therefore I'm making hard choices in life that may not necessarily be the best thing I can choose from, but rather, again, at $40 a month, you can do everything that you need to do on the go because we're there for you.
I love that. Now, as I understand it, you have extended some of the personal Min-Jae style
Yes.
to the brand. I've heard rumors that you have surprised and delighted some customers and even personally called a few just spontaneously.
Yes.
Who the heck at your level does that?
I hope more people.
I hope so too. That would be great.
Yeah.
Because I would tell some people a thing or two if they called me.
Yeah. Well, so as a brand new business, this is the beauty of what we get to do, but I think about also a lot from the perspective of, as we scale and grow, I still want to hold on to that, and for my teams and everybody who works with us to ultimately not forget about who we're doing this for, which is our members. So as I got into this business and sort of learned more about what the opportunities and how people are responding, the bar seems to be both very low and very high at the same time, which is to say people just want to be treated like human beings. They want respect, they want dignity, and they want somebody to listen and be heard. So part of that approach has been, for instance, with one of our early access member pool, we asked them right away, hey, this is what we're trying to do. We're building something new for you. Give us your thoughts on what you want to see more from us. And I mean, when's the last time we all took a survey from a company, sent, email?
Yeah.
I was completely surprised and floored by hundreds of thousands of responses that we got. Yes. In which people detailed out what they are currently not getting and what they are hoping to see more of and why, and even some of the notes that said, we're really rooting for you.
Did you offer them a big incentive to complete the survey?
No, part of the agreement was this community mentality that you mentioned earlier, which is to say we're building it for you and we're building it with you.
Okay, so did you socialize that first? Did you sort of lay the groundwork of this community and the intention and created awareness?
Sure. I would say it's kind of happened in two prongs, which is our intention to go out there and state that this is how we want to have the kind of relationship with our members as a community. But at the same time, we've absolutely tapped into the organic behavior that we've seen. So for instance, on social platforms like Twitter and Reddit, early on, we saw folks coming out and posting pictures of our SIM cards and sharing their experiences, and sort of sharing the good, bad, and the ugly, because that's exactly what we want. This is a passionate community of people who really want to see something done well so they can benefit from it and ultimately help them. And I'm not going to lie, when I first heard that we were on Reddit, I said, what's the bad news? Because the Reddit community members are very passionate, and they will, exactly, they're very, very vocal. But what I saw was not only very interesting and important and practical, constructive criticism for us, but eventually advocates who came out of nowhere and said, look, these are the kinds of things as a new company that they're trying to address for us, and here's why you're experiencing why you are. Here's what my experience has been, and really jumping in there even before we as a brand had a chance to do that.
So that's so interesting, and just to like drill down on the Reddit aspect for a second. So you didn't try to go in there as a brand.
No,
you
I don't think that would have worked.
Yeah, right. So you were discovered.
Yes.
And of course, discoverability is a very appealing factor in building a community. So then you listened. I have a sort of a 5-prong approach also with social media. I think you need to look around, you need to listen, you need to learn what people are saying, and you can lead.
Yes.
I forget what the last L is, but it's in there. And it sounds like that's exactly what you've been doing. You've been sort of sussing things out and then joining people together.
Yes, I would say our approach has always been, one, let people be themselves, and we are there to help them achieve that goal. And I don't think it would ever work if we try to force ourselves into a conversation as a brand. It would simply be that we too, as a brand persona, want to be part of the conversation, but we have to earn that right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes total sense. And I'm so curious about the Verizon relationship. So this is a company owned by Verizon.
Correct. You're right.
And of course, we have we're so pleased to have worked with Diego Scotti and recently honored him for his efforts at Verizon for diversity and inclusion through our Advancing Diversity Honors. But we also know that Diego adds a little bit of panache in what otherwise might be perceived as a sort of watching paint dry kind of industry, the telecom world. So I think you're sort of following suit. Is it like a top-down approach in terms of creative freedom and the ability to build this brand in such a humanized way, or does it just happen to be a good brand fit?
Sure. Well, he's such a mentor and an inspiration for me personally. When I first met him earlier on to discuss this opportunity, I knew what he was championing here at Verizon and the brand evolution he's taken on, and now he's doing it again, right, with the latest spots that aired at Super Bowl. And so I would say our sensibilities are very much aligned, where I would say the beauty of this comes together because of his vision and leadership is that we get to build a whole new brand that can tap into the resources of our parent company, but be able to do it in a way that creates different kind of a relationship and a consumer journey to what we're trying to do here. So whereas Verizon can continue to be there for its customers, the loyal customer base that they have built through all of the offerings and the stores and everything, we get to then tap into a different kind of consumers who might want something different, but still leveraging the strength of Verizon network.
So speaking of different kinds of consumers, and with those hundreds of thousands of email responses, do you have a profile of your typical consumer, and is there any representation for the older consumer?
Sure. I would say our member base to date have been definitely folks who wanted to try something new, simply because maybe they're tired of their current setup, or because they're the early adopter types who are attracted to new options and want to be the first to try out, which has been, I think, part of the reason why we have been discovered in places like Reddit, where first of the people come out and kind of share their experiences and naturally build a community around. And really all walks of life. Folks who are looking for, again, the simplicity, the convenience, and the value for what they're paying for, all the way from the spectrum of I am literally having to really look at my budget and have to make value conscious choices, and I am proud of it, to, you know what, I can't afford to buy iPhone X's of the world, but I choose to come here because from service level, this is exactly what I need every single day.
And this will not cannibalize the Verizon business?
So it is a future vision, and therefore right now when you look at the type of profiles of customers who are with Verizon, which are family plans, and they're a whole suite of products from devices and phones and accessories that are built out, versus us, which is a single line only and $40 a month. So we attract different types of folks. One, because of that product offering difference, but also because of the fact that we are carving out a different digital type of experience in the funnel in terms of people don't necessarily need the stores to be able to do transacts.
And so, selfishly, as a Verizon customer, I'll just say it right here now. How easy is it for me to switch over if I wanted that plan?
It should be easy if you have your phone paid off and that is yours and that you can take to go.
Okay.
But the other thing is, in January, we started selling phones as well, in addition to the bring your own phone model that we've been operating in 2018.
Okay.
So now folks who want to come over to Visible have the choice of either bringing their own iPhones or being able to buy new iPhones plus the Android phones that we started selling, which are Samsung S9 and S Plus.
Interesting. Okay. So now just to kind of come back again to the marketing of it.
Yep.
You've done a pretty eye-catchy kind of thing.
Sure.
And I love this. You've sort of transformed some bus stops and things like that in LA to make your point.
That's right. Yeah.
Tell me about
I'm glad
that.
you noticed it.
Yeah, it was hard not to miss, and you know the press is loving it.
Great. So when you think about the fact that we don't necessarily have that everyday availability of physical storefronts and the people-to-people interaction in stores, we have to work extra hard to also create that humanity and the people relationship, especially as a new brand showing up in a very crowded market. So the marketing strategy around this is three prongs. One is we're absolutely utilizing the efficiency of digital media to create a whole new funnel and ways for us to show up in somebody's lives and bring them all the way to our storefront that is online. But also we wanted to experiment with, one, what does it look like to build relationships with people in real life, utilizing communities that are already out there. So again, back to communities, and that's how our influencer strategy comes to life, and how we work with artists and different publishers who already have communities of passion around them. So the bus shelter campaign that you mentioned is part of the second prong of strategy, which is around the experiences. So as we think about the digital experience we created and being able to sign up and activate and have an interaction with Visible, we wanted to show up in a surprising and delightful way in people's real lives too. So the premise of this campaign, the latest round of campaign, is that this is a phone store, meaning everything that you see around you could potentially be a phone store, because you will be able to, again, order your Visible service right from your phone, download the app, order the SIM, and pop it right in, and you'll be good to go. And so we play with that concept a little bit, and there are several bus shelters and transit units and some additional out-of-home executions that have been transformed into fun things like bathtubs and stadiums and ski lodges, where we
physically on the street,
physically,
I should
yes,
point out.
Absolutely,
right.
That are still usable bus shelters that will, one, become a fun moment for folks to be able to capture pictures themselves if they want to and share, but also drive home the point that it's really a service and a product that is built for you on the go, the mobility aspect of it.
So it's really emblematic that I might be at the stadium, but I can still order my phone service from there.
That's right.
Got it. Okay.
Yes, if you're compelled to do so,
yet
absolutely.
I happen to be on La Brea in
Yeah.
Los Angeles.
There you go.
Okay.
Exactly.
So just to kind of wrap things up and come back to our theme of community and women, what do you think we need to do to feel more empowered, to create more opportunity for women to reach the heights that you've reached as a chief marketing officer, the freedom to innovate and feel confident in their ideas?
Boy, there are lots of things, but if I can think of maybe three things. One is, personally, I've been very fortunate enough to have a partner who is incredibly supportive of my career journey. So when it comes to women's issues, especially when it comes to workplace, it has to be a conversation with everyone in the room and not just women in and of themselves pulling themselves up. So what I mean by that is either it's family leave policies to environment in which men feel just as well prepared and supported to be able to take time off and support their spouses, as well as the programs and the structures, mentorships that exist for women to be able to benefit from that. The second thing I would say is, this is really advice for anybody to be able to take advantage of, but women in particular, being able to own up to and tell our own success stories is incredibly important and something that I've really had to learn to be comfortable with. Because a lot of the times, if you get back to my background, in Korea, the culture was you usually work to conform, and you usually kind of conform to certain expectations. And then as women, I think we're often encouraged to fit in as well rather than stand out. And I think a lot of that is actually changing not only in marketing industries, but in a lot of different industries, which is really encouraging to see. So when we're able to define our own success criteria, whether it's personal or professional, and be able to tell that story on our own terms with data and talking points that are indisputable, that becomes a really powerful way for us to be able to argue on the merits and the impact itself, rather than, well, maybe you got here because of other reasons. I would say the third thing is back to women and women of themselves, which is to say, I am always surprised by, but in a very, very positive way, when I get pulled into very informal networks of other women who are in high-level positions but are completely willing to open up their voices and their hearts and minds to share what they're going through, what their struggles have been, what the opportunities are, and how we can help each other. And complete strangers. They owe me nothing and vice versa, and yet there is this sort of implicit understanding that we have to help each other do this. So I want to absolutely be part of more of those communities and help everybody get pulled up and continue that journey together rather than alone.
Well, that sounds like the absolute definition of community. And on that note, Min-jae, I just want to thank you so much for bringing me into your community, being able to get such good insights.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a wonderful conversation.
Thank you. All right, I'm Evie Moss. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Insider Insights from Media Village. Rate, review, subscribe on Apple or wherever you listen to podcasts. And for a longer transcript of this show and more insights and thought leadership on media marketing and advertising, go to MediaVillage.com.